So I'm going to talk about the David Haye versus Mark De Mori fight that's just been announced today. Who David Haye's going to be fighting in his comeback fight. It wasn't about a couple of weeks ago he sold his gym, and I thought it was going to be the end of David Haye for sure. I thought he was just going to never announce his retirement, just never come back to heavyweight boxing. And I've been pleasantly surprised that he's actually going through a fight, and it's going to be on the 16th of January next year. And I'm really looking forward to it. And a lot of people will be asking, who is Mark De Mori? Well, Mark De Mori is an Australian boxer. If you look at his record, he's got 30 wins and 1 loss, and he's got 26 knockouts. So he's a big power puncher. He's got a KO rate of 79%. He's 6'2", 245, 250 pounds, and he's at 6 foot. They've not actually got his reach recorded, but he's probably got a reach of about 77 inches. That sounds a bit reasonable for that height, but it could be different. There's not an exact figure for his reach. So he's ranked number 8 by the WBA belt. Now, so everything sounds quite good. It sounds like David's coming out and he's fighting a reasonable opponent, doesn't it? I mean, he's ranked 8th by WBA, he's got a good record. His last loss was 11 years ago. He's a big guy, he's a power puncher, but he looks good on paper, but then if you dig down and you actually watch his fights, you go on BoxRec and you actually have a little look. Because BoxRec, that's the official place to get information about a boxer. Don't pay any attention to the WBA, don't pay any attention to the WBC, the Ring, anything like that. BoxRec gives you an unbiased source and information about boxing. So, in reality, yes, WBA have him ranked number 8, but in reality he's only 108th in the world in heavyweight boxing out of about 1,200 heavyweights. So it's still decent, it's still good. The type of boxer that would be fighting Mark De Mori would be someone in the in between the top 100 to top 50 kind of bracket. So this fight isn't going to get David Haye placed very highly in the world, in boxing, in heavyweight boxing, but it will get him placed quite highly in the WBA ranking. And so it looks like David Haye wants to go down the route to fight Vladimir Klitschko again by fighting someone that's ranked number 8 in the WBA, because Vladimir Klitschko holds the WBA title. Now, I've been watching some of Mark De Mori's fights since it's been announced, and I've watched 3, and I've also been looking at clips of him and seeing what he's all about. The guy's pretty much a bodybuilder. He self-taught himself boxing about 15 years ago. He's really heavy. You see him lifting weights. He looks quite a strong guy. There's a picture of him shoulder pressing or clean and pressing 120 kilograms, which is quite strong. And just like I say, he's a big power puncher, but when you actually watch his fights, he's slow, he's plodding. I think he telegraphs his punches. I think David Haye, well, at least the old David Haye for 3.5 years ago, would be able to see his punches from a mile away. He'd be able to just stay out of distance and just come in and counter him whenever he needs to. I don't see the David Haye from 3.5 years ago having any trouble with this guy at all. You couldn't say he's completely cherry picking this guy, because you don't normally cherry pick power punchers when you start out boxing or when you're on a comeback, because there's always that danger they hit you and that's it. You know, you've got that ring rust, and if they hit you, that's it. So he's not, I wouldn't say he's cherry picking, but he's picked a reasonably easy opponent. I mean, he looks good on the surface, but I think David Haye is going to get him out there quite quickly. So Mark De Mori's opponents recently have been awful, frankly. The best opponent he's fought recently is someone that was ranked 155 in the world. So, you know, that brings into question, why is he ranked number 8 in the WBA? You know, it makes no sense. That's why you don't pay any attention to these WBA, Ring Magazine or anything. You just look at BoxRec and you can see, you get them good information, you can see who's been fighting. Lots of guys ranked 400th in the world, 300th in the world, 250th in the world. There's never think anyone really good. Yeah, he's managed to be ranked 8th in a WBA belt. Now, he's been KO'd before, which is interesting, because David Haye's a massive power puncher. I mean, he is, even when he stepped up to the heavyweight level. I think, don't have it right in front of me right now, but give me a second. I think he's got like a 78% KO rate, David Haye. Yep, 78%. David Haye's fought 9 real heavyweights during his career, and he's KO'd 7 of them. So that's a 78% KO rate. So that's impressive. And this guy, Mark De Mori, has been knocked out in the first round before. And what makes that interesting is he wasn't just knocked out in the first round. He was knocked out in the first round by someone that's extremely feather-fisted. The guy had a 18% KO rate, which is just a ridiculous. So David Haye's got a height advantage over this guy. He's got a similar reach advantage though. I mean, similar reach to this guy. He's a lot lighter, even though David Haye's not been weighed for a while. But in his last fight, he came in weighing just 210 pounds. So this guy's going to have a 40-pound weight advantage on him, which doesn't mean anything. David Haye's very good on his feet. He'll stay out of range. He'll come in with a counter. They called him a sniper boxer. That was his style. You know, he'd stay out of range, come in, a bit like Ali, if you will. But unlike Ali, he can hit really hard. So I see this ending by knockout, and I see David Haye winning. But it's not assured in any way, because David Haye has been out of boxing for 3.5 years, and you don't know what kind of condition he's going to come back in. If you ask David Haye himself, you'll say yes, he's been keeping himself in great shape, and he'll say he's been lifting weights and he can lift heavier weights than he used to, which doesn't really mean anything towards boxing. What you want to be hearing is he's been sparring and he's looked better in sparring than he used to. So a lot of people will be asking, yeah, David Haye pulled out of 2 fights with Tyson Fury, and a lot of people don't know the reason why he pulled out of them fights. Tyson Fury says it was because David Haye was scared of him, even though there's actually interviews of David Haye with Tyson Fury on YouTube actually saying what the real reason was. David Haye, when he was getting in preparation for fights with Tyson Fury, looking as good at all, his long
just abandoned him, went out of the camp, left him. David Haye was getting beat up in sparring. He wasn't looking very good in sparring. Didn't have his complete dedication to his training at all either. So it raises question marks, why is David Haye coming back to boxing? Does he really think he can beat Vladimir Klitschko as he's got older and been out the ring for 3.5 years? David Haye, a lot of people think David Haye's just doing this for the money again. He's having financial problems. That's some of the rumours. I hope he comes back and he's as good. It's not very reassuring when he's saying he can just lift more weights than he used to. That means absolutely nothing, really. Weights can make you faster. They can make you stronger and punch harder. But if you put on more muscle, it tires you out. I'm not saying David Haye's putting on any more muscle. You can add strength and you can add power without adding any extra muscle. But I can see this guy. If David Haye takes Mark De Mori into the later rounds, I think Mark De Mori's going to tire. He's a big guy. He lifts a lot of weights. Mark De Mori, he's not got the best of chins if he got knocked out by a feather fist. I mean, in the first round, which means he probably just got hit by one hit from a feather fist and he went down. This hasn't happened for 11 years. So yeah, maybe his defence was really bad back then. He's improved it a lot. We're going to have to wait and see. But I've watched Mark De Mori. He's slow. He's plodding. David Haye shouldn't have any trouble with him. But it depends on how David Haye comes back into the ring. And I'm really glad that David Haye has came back. I'm really glad he's came back because there's a lot of good heavyweights right now. Joseph Parker, Anthony Joshua, Dillon White, Luis Ortiz, Vladimir Klitschko, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Alexander Povetkin, amazing heavyweight that's not getting very much recognition at all for some strange reason.
Another thing I can add is Mark De Mori has had 12 amateur fights and he was undefeated in them 12 amateur fights, but 12 is not a lot. He's probably quite an intimidating looking guy being a bodybuilder in amateurs, and that probably scared a lot of people. I mean, when you're fighting